Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Keegan. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave your opinions down in the comment section. Of Mice and Men, Earthandsky. Of Mice and Men is an American metalcore band formed back in 2009. Releasing 6 albums in that time frame, the band has kept fairly busy. In fact, this latest album literally falls 1 year after their last album, Defy, in 2018. Following lead singer Austin Carlisle's departure, bassist Aaron Pauley has been holding the reins as vocalist since then, playing that role for the last 2 albums. This album is their most recent, 6th album, and with any album following 1 year after, it's always a worrying situation since it takes time to produce art in some way. So let's see if 1 year was enough for the band. We'll start this review off with the singles, there being 4 of them. The first one being How to Survive, which is the closer. It's just such an out-there, guns-blazing song. It's got literally no holds barred. It does make sense for a closer to go out with a bang, and this track does not disappoint at all. Behind all the screaming, the lyrics are actually pretty empowering, mainly focused on being an anthem for people undergoing abuse and bullying. I think it does a fantastic job at being that, especially with said aggressive instrumental. Paulie mentioned that this album would be much heavier than Defy, and with this lead single, it's looking promising. This one's definitely a keeper. The second single, Mushroom Cloud, is a bit of a different case. For one, I love the chugging guitars, and Valentino's drum work on this track are some of the most engaging on this entire album. It's the lyrical content on this one that pulls on some awkward strings. Not the verses though, those are fine, where Paulie sings as a tormented mind trying to escape the inevitable blow-up of his thoughts. However, he takes it to a literal high with his 3-2-1 boom drop on the chorus, which kinda just sucks away any credibility and seriousness this song has for me. Honestly, that's just how I feel. Instrumentally, the song is fine, but it's not for me to keep around. The third single, the title track, Earthandsky, I was not overly impressed by. We get standard chugging guitars and drums. Paulie is easily the best part of the song, delivering some wonderful energy on this song, giving us some of his best screams to date. We also have some decent motivational lyrics here too, how you can always rise above whatever's bringing you down. Unfortunately, that seems to be the case for the music too, where Paulie definitely rises above everyone else in the band. Also, there's a random minute-long outro that goes silent for 15 seconds. It's very bizarre. Lyrics and vocals are fine, but the instrumental just makes the song drag. And the fourth and final single, Taste of Regret, is awesome. It's easily the best single. The band really picks up their energy on this song, and Paulie dials his screams back to match that, even going into his singing voice for the chorus. The song is brash, it's mean, it's aggressive, and it's so in your face and full of life with this savage exuberance. Lyrically, it's also pretty packed with emotion, with Paulie screaming about how lies have consequences and you'll have to live with that regret one way or another. As previously mentioned, it's easily the best single, and one of my favorites from this album. So I was fairly mixed on the overall area of the singles. Now for the rest of the songs. Gravedancer, the opener, starts off with a sitar of all instruments, which were also returned on the chorus. But then all hell breaks loose with these heavy, chunky, thick instrumental which comes through, and evolves into something out of a thrash metal song. This really feels like the band is letting out all the stops. We have Paulie screaming his lungs out, and the band really follows through with said thrash metal instrumental. It's an extremely fitting and satisfying opener, and it's a pretty damn good song in its own right. As We Suffocate kinda just feels like they tried to make Taste of Regret again, except they tone things back a little bit, which in all honesty just makes the song feel a little bit insignificant. There's nothing wrong with the song at all, it's just that the instrumental is toned down and generic, although Paulie's vocals are definitely top tier this time. But in all honesty, this is probably the most filler song on the album. It's nothing significant, yet also nothing bad, it's just fine. Pieces kinda sounds like it was made for a metal radio station, but still has that traditional bite and volatility of normal of Mice and Men. The guitar work here really steals the show. Phil and Alan really shine with their chugging, gritty guitars, and the solo on the latter half of the song is also very nice. Paulie's vocals are also pretty good, but really get drowned out by everyone else's performance. Lyrically, it is a lot about depletion and losing emotions here. All the pieces are just falling away. It's a fine song. I think if Paulie's vocals were a little bit louder, this would be a much more gratifying moment on the album, but as it is, it's just fine. Deceiver/Deceived is like the better version of Pieces. This one I can also see being shipped to radio, with its fairly accessible instrumental and Paulie using minimal screaming, relying more on his singing voice. Which, in all honesty, kinda makes the song feel like it has a less of an impact overall on the album. Not to mention, said instrumental climax is around 2 minutes 46 seconds with a very nice guitar solo. This is probably the safest and also the weakest song on this album, but it's probably a pass for me. The mountain finally brings things back up. This track is incredible. We have a wonderful mix of singing and yelling from Paulie, both sounding emotionally broken. The drum work here is truly exceptional, bringing a heavy, savage, yet still vulnerable and open mood to this song. In fact, that kind of reflects on the lyrics too, with it mainly being about this mountain that someone has built up to be a mask, an identity of themselves. But it's also how he hides that empathy and open minds behind said mountain. This is just an awesome song. One of the best here, definitely check this one out. Meltdown feels a bit underwhelming in the grander scheme of this album. The main problem is that we only get a couple of seconds of Polly's shrieking screams, which when compared to the rest of the songs, it's extremely boring in comparison, even though Polly's singing is actually pretty nice here. There's just not a lot of motivation. It's fairly boring even though the rest of the band are playing pretty damn well. Like some earlier songs, I can also see this one going to radio, but when it comes to such a heavy album like this, it barely leaves a scratch. And finally, Linger, which is a nice way to end off this review as it's another great song. While there are some chugging, stuttering guitar riffs, Polly really makes use of this with screaming at the end of every little vocal line. It really makes the song feel a lot more engaging. Phil and Alan are yet again easily the stars of this show. Said gritty guitars carry the melody smoothly against Polly's vocals. Lyrically, it's actually pretty brutal about losing the people you know, whether it be to drugs, alcohol, or even suicide, and how the pain will always linger. I think this topic transitions nicely into How to Survive, which is the closer. It's a nice compliment and a damn good song. Overall, this is easily of Mice and Men's heaviest record yet. Definitely reminiscent of their older material and a massive improvement from Defy. I don't think this album had a single downright bad song in its tracklist, which is pretty damn good. However, unfortunately, there is a fair share of mediocrity here, which makes the standout tracks seem more of exceptions rather than the rule. But in all honesty, this is probably top 3 of Mice and Men albums for me. I'm feeling about a 7.5 out of 10 on this album. Well guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.